Welcome, everybody, to Blissfully Aware, the show in which three opinionated people discuss what's going on in fandom and nerd news in general. I am Bliss, and as always, I'm joined by my two lovely co-hosts, Kelty and Kendra.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
So, have y'all seen the Hotel Transylvania movie?
No.
I saw the first one like 10 years ago or whenever it came out one time.
You hear they're making a fourth one?
Just now.
Just this very instant did I learn that.
I heard people getting big mad on the internet, but I also only really follow adults on the internet, so...
I am astounded to find out that this franchise has fans.
Yeah, I didn't realize there was a fandom.
Fans who are able to access the internet unsupervised. Just speechless.
And, like, fans that are passionately upset about something happening in this fourth movie.
Yeah.
What's happening in this fourth movie that's so bad?
Drumroll, please.
Well, so in the first three movies, there was a character that's just the Invisible Man. And apparently in the fourth movie, Van Helsing shows up with a, like, demonstrification ray.
Okay.
And in the trailer, you see the Invisible Man become visible. And instead of the hot, sexy person that I guess everybody presumed him to be from his floating glasses...
Okay.
He is a overweight, middle-aged, balding white man.
And ginger hair. I saw that.
Oh, I see.
Red hair,
the most repulsive of creatures.
Yeah, not for
Fat
nothing.
ginger.
But if you're gonna be a monster fucker, I mean, basic etiquette, you'd fuck gingers,
Well,
right?
Here is a photo. See, there he is.
Yeah, I'd tap that.
I mean, he's not, like, repulsively hideous or anything.
No.
He's just a guy who's invisible,
Yeah.
I guess. I don't fucking know anything about these movies.
There have been some petitions made, as if Sony's gonna change it now and make him suddenly hotter.
Oh.
Like a full-on, like a Sonic the
Yeah.
Hedgehog, like,
I know,
signature
right?
campaign. Like,
Oh no, horny people on the internet are mad.
and in the case of Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic's original design was unsettling.
It was super
Like,
unsettling. Yeah.
I get what the, like, issue was there, is that the design was just flat out bad. But this design isn't bad, it's just not what they want.
Yeah.
Like, it's a perfectly acceptable cartoon man design.
I think people are being rude. He's perfectly normal.
I don't know what they were hoping for, but again, I don't really care.
Again, I saw the first one like 10 years ago and I was like, that's cute, and then forgot about it.
I didn't remember he existed at all.
Well, I mean, he's invisible. It's just kind of weird to me because, like, who cares? When he goes back to being invisible, you can picture him however you want.
Well, obviously, because now they know that they have been fantasizing, perhaps sexually, about an ugly person this whole time. And that's what's gross.
Okay, well...
Not that it's an invisible man in a child's B movie. Oh, and he's got David Spade's voice.
Okay,
Oh,
I
no.
immediately need everybody to leave him alone now, because he's beautiful. He's beautiful and he's perfect, and you can all just back off.
I guess they were all imagining, like, a Cusco type.
That's fair. Cusco
Like-
is very hot.
Some, like, Twinkie South American indigenous boy.
But I don't know, man. If you've seen David Spade, he doesn't look like Cusco. He's a very...
Holy shit, the Hotel Transylvania wiki is long! Oh my god!
short blonde
It
man.
goes on and on! There are paragraphs devoted to every film for this one character.
Just for this one
This
character?
is just for the Invisible Man.
Wow.
Jesus
Dang,
fucking
I didn't realize there was that
Christ.
much lore.
There's a lot of
Fucking Game of
Hotel Transylvania
The
lore.
fucking Game of Thrones wiki isn't this long with some entries.
Jesus Christ. Wow.
Yeah.
I honestly thought that this was the wiki for the whole franchise. I have been watching her scroll all through it, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense for all 4 movies of a children's franchise. Like, that makes sense. But if it's just the one character...
It's just for the one character they include the video games, quotes.
There's video games?
Yes, there's a couple video games.
that makes sense,
There's a
though.
trivia section.
Give me some trivia.
At one point in the story development process, Griffin was actually cast as the bartender in the hotel, serving up quips alongside his cocktail concoctions.
Oh.
Oh.
Isn't that a fun tidbit of information? That isn't your day a little brighter now for having learned this?
That's pretty cute.
I was depressed before, but now I'm great.
Mm-hmm.
Did the Invisible Man have lines in the previous movies? Like,
Yes.
could you hear
There's
him?
a whole section of quotes.
Huh.
There are 664 pages on the Hotel Transylvania wiki.
That's too many pages. That's...
Jesus Christ.
What could they possibly be talking about?
That sounds like that would take longer to read those pages than it would be to watch all 4 movies.
Well, so on the topic of Hotel Transylvania and monster fuckability, we are going to do a little discussion about something very near and dear to Kelty's heart, which is monster fucking.
Hell yeah.
So this is your warning right up front that we will be talking about sexy times and monsters. It's not going to get, like, explicit, capital E, but
It's not.
if you're not into it,
Why would
this
it?
is not going to be the episode for you. Do you guys know what teratrophilia is? I think I'm saying that right.
Gonna take a guess and assume it's sexual arousal based on monsters.
Ayo.
That is what it is.
I finally have a word for
Context
it.
clues.
I am good at deduction.
Yay.
It is classified as a paraphilia. According to Wiki, it's defined as, rather than viewing the condition as a kink, defenders of teratophilia believe it allows people to see the beauty outside of societal standards.
That is what we say.
Yeah. Among other things, it has been suggested that monsters can function as an escapist fantasy for some women, since the monster is able to embody masculine attributes without presenting itself as a man, which may embody trauma and terror in extreme cases. So,
No, I get that. The scariest monster is definitely a cis man.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Never happening. I'll fuck the werewolf, but not a cis white man, no.
okay, but that Venom trailer, though. I'm very hype about the Venom 2 trailer. I watched it a bunch, I looked for all the Easter eggs. I'm very excited.
Hell yeah. I'm excited that fucking Woody Harrelson is playing Carnage, because that's fantastic.
who arranged that, man?
My
That was a choice.
deepest, most psyche is who arranged that, thank you. The whole of the Venom 2 trailer seemed to just actually be everything I wanted in a Venom 2 trailer. It was like, okay, so let's do the like weird rom-com making breakfast thing and like going around the city being buds, and then Woody Harrelson is Carnage. Which, I mean, we knew already because of the end of Venom, but also Venom is just all around a rom-com.
Venom is an interesting character, and from what I can tell, based off of this one trailer, my guess would be the inspiration is going to pull from the Maximum Carnage or the Absolute Carnage storylines. And Mulligan in there, I'm wondering if they're going to introduce Toxin.
Well, probably, because you always have to be setting up your next
Yeah.
franchise installment. And,
Yeah.
like, pardon me, but the Venom movie wasn't very good.
Blasphemy.
Like, it's not, like, as a film. I think Tom Hardy's performance is very good. And, like, the chemistry he has with himself, I guess, because he is voicing Venom, as well as playing Eddie. But, like, the plot and narrative otherwise are just very forgettable. Like, I know Riz Ahmed was the villain in that movie, because I like Riz Ahmed, but I don't remember anything about his character, or what his character was trying to do, or basically anything that happened in that movie. All I remember about that movie is Tom Hardy in a lobster tank, shivering and sweaty and eating lobster whole.
Mm-hmm. Then there's...
He also made out with
Yes,
Venom.
he did.
Did, yes.
Sort of.
And yeah,
No, sort of.
like I noticed that there's like a shot of Ravencroft in the trailer, which I don't think they've included in the MCU yet.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
They're going in a more like Batman direction with it, I guess.
Yeah, with Shriek already being locked up there. Which, yay!
I'm excited.
So yeah, I guess if none of us are going to say the thesis statement of this episode, we're going to talk about why some people might like monsters as romantic interests in fiction or be attracted to them, and where that comes from and how that's changed, I guess, over the course of history.
Let's go way back into the past from the very start of monster fucking.
And what even is a monster, man?
Who is the monster and who is
Isn't
the man?
Man the real monster when you think about it?
Yes.
Bro.
But we'll get into that. First, we're gonna go all the way back to 1756. Beauty and the Beast existed before 1756, but more or less the version that we know was written in 1756. The trope of Beauty and the Beast is older than that, but I didn't want to go back that far.
Okay, yes.
So,
The original, novel form of Beauty and the Beast was written by Gabrielle Suzanne Bardot de Villeneuve.
Ooh.
Thank you. So it was written by a woman, actually. A lot of people don't know that. And it was written in a young girls magazine. So it is both written by a woman and the intended audience is young girls. So it is maybe the earliest, monster romance novel for girls.
yes.
And it is heavily based on the Greek myth Cupid and Psyche, including and up to the the dinner where the utensils serve themselves and there is a harp playing music with no performer. That is all from the original myth, which shows up in the Disney movie famously. And basically the point of at least Villeneuve's adaptation of this myth was obviously an allegory for young girls, reaching marriageable age and going off and being some man they've never met before's wife. And the idea being that, I'm sure this man twice your age might seem like an awful monster, but really, if you're kind to him, he'll be kind back to you. Because, I guess in a larger scope, monsters in fiction usually plainly, obviously, this isn't super insightful to say, but they usually are an embodiment of the fears of a certain society or culture in that time and place. So, young girls fear being shipped off for marriage and having an evil, monstrous husband who's just terrible to them. And so how monsters are portrayed in fiction changes depending on the culture telling the story and what that culture is afraid of, basically, because that will get encoded, whether purposefully or non-purposefully, into the monster.
For sure.
And so, yeah, it is the idea around the original myth being there is virtue in finding the good in, I don't know, a suboptimal partner, let's say.
Well, basically in sacrificing yourself and your desires, for a less provincial life, let's say, and succumbing to the beast, quote unquote, of arranged marriage. See, yes, I did think that was hot.
Less hot.
But in the end of the original Beauty and the Beast and, the Disney version that everyone's aware of, he is ultimately revealed to be a nice guy, quote unquote, and a human, not a monster. And it is through her perseverance and devotion that his good attributes are revealed. Yes, there is a transformative element to her love.
Yes.
Because I know this is the big YouTube film school take. It's not Stockholm Syndrome, and it's not settling. Like,
No.
the Beast is the one who actually changes to be a better person in the Disney version and in the original version. It's not Belle or Beauty settling. Like, there is an element of him improving.
Yeah.
And, like, discovering one another's good qualities.
Also, I should point out, this is like a main thing in the mainstream of monster fucking, as it will, that he will change into a human
prince.
into a handsome prince, as Bliss said, usually at the end, where it's like the creature is actually a possessed human being who is then transformed by love and is a handsome prince like all the girls want. But if you ask a lot of fans of Beauty and the Beast, Prince Adam just doesn't do it for them. But the Beast did.
Beast over Prince Adam any
Yeah.
day.
At least in the original Disney movie, the live-action remake, that CGI was terrible. Just terrible.
I forget that movie exists, to be
I
honest.
only remembered it because I was, like, researching this. And so it came up, and I was like, oh... ugh.
Which I think the fundamental thing, actually, that the remake gets wrong is that the Beast doesn't change. He's
No.
just rude to her the entire time.
He's a naked
Like,
bitch.
there's a moment in the original animated film where, like, Bella's staying at the castle and she's, like, bummed, but she's basically trying to make the best of things, and so the Beast literally has a moment where he's like, I'm going to do something nice for her. He, like, says that out loud to Lumiere. And so he shows her the huge castle library because he knows that she likes to read. And, like, you know, she has all this time now being a prisoner. And so that's, like, an important moment of character growth where they are coming to respect one another and, like, he is going out of his way to be hospitable toward her. Whereas in the remake, basically what happens is it's a moment of I think Emma Watson Bell says, like, my favorite play is Romeo and Juliet or something, and the Beast, like, goes like, oh, that's stupid, basically. There's so many better things to read. Here, let me show you my huge library. Maybe your dumbass can find something better than simpering girl plays. God. And, like, that's basically his whole attitude through the whole remake movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's to show off his superior taste in literature, I guess, basically. It's not like, oh, you saved me from wolves, let me repay the favor. It's like, here, maybe your dumbass can educate yourself while you're busy sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's what's so wrong, fundamentally, about the remake, is that the Beast is just an asshole start to finish.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know my queer friends really love Beauty and the Beast and prefer Beast to Adam, which, yes. But I think it's interesting how queer people are way more into monster fucking than straight people. Or even just, like, monster empathizing.
Yeah, well, because, like, as Kendra said earlier, like, monsters in fiction almost always represent cultural anxieties, right? And, like, queerness is a cultural anxiety. It has been for many years. And where society treats us different.
Well, yes, society treats us monstrously.
Yeah.
We watch something like Beauty and the Beast, or King Kong, or Creature from the Black Lagoon, or The Day the Earth Stood Still, and we're like, I empathize more with the monster than I do with, you know, the violent colonists or whatever, and
this monster that you came into their living space.
came
and
into their place, and you broke all their shit, and you took them away, and tried to shoot at them, and why they were just why
They were
why
just
you
living
bothering them?
life.
They were just out there living their best life, and so yes, when you are a marginalized person in society, and you see a film that is about society or modernity finding something it doesn't understand and destroying it, it's easy to empathize with the things society doesn't understand and attempts to destroy.
Yeah.
But usually these stories end one of two ways. They end with the monster being destroyed, or the monster transforming into an acceptable member of society, like Beauty and the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not until, like, lately, like, yeah, the last 20, 30 years, where you find these sorts of Beauty and the Beast stories where the monster is not transformed or killed at the end.
Mm-hmm.
The monster is just accepted how they are, and the, like, again, this is gonna sound really, like, hashtag deep, but they are, like, inverting these stories by empathizing with the monster and casting the characters that are, like, frightened by the monster and attempting to kill it are the monstrous characters in, like, if you are applying this story to, like, an old school archetype. The monster is now the romantic lead, and who would have been the romantic lead originally is now the monster, the Gaston or something, who is coming in and trying to slay the monster just for being different and weird, I guess, and being something that he does not understand.
Which brings us to my main man, Guillermo del Toro.
Love him.
Who, as a marginalized member of society, as an immigrant, fucking gets it. He is a director of movies like Hellboy and Pan's Labyrinth and Shape of Water. He's been interviewed about The Shape of Water many a time because people were finally interested in his opinion now that he's an Oscar winner. He has this one quote, "I feel it as an immigrant that has been received by this country, but I still feel there is a sort of demonization of the other very present. I needed to talk about the beauty of the other." Well, in a different interview, he says that The Shape of Water is about celebrating imperfections, celebrating otherness, falling in love with the other. You know, it's not so much about tolerance as it is about love. Which, that part to me stands out very deeply because tolerance and acceptance is not love. And I think that's why Shape of Water stands out so much to the queer community, because while we very much resonate with monsters because that's what society tells us we are, being accepted, while yes is a goal, is not the same as being loved. And so seeing this monster be loved just as he is, an anatomically correct fish man, she falls for that, she goes and lives with him, and they are happy together forever. And he doesn't even ever learn English, he has no need to, because she's mute anyway, so they communicate through sign language. Yeah, so it very much is meaningful that the fishman, as he is, was not just accepted by society. He wasn't accepted by society. He was accepted by the queer man and the black woman and the disabled woman. But society largely still hated him. Society being Michael Shannon, basically. But that didn't matter anymore, because he found love, and that was better than acceptance. Fuck acceptance.
Guillermo del Toro is just on a whole other level. I love that man.
Guillermo del Toro fucking gets it, man.
Well, and it's also a major theme of Hellboy, like, Ron Perlman's character, like, one of his main issues, I guess, in the first film, is, like, being aware that he looks freaky and can't go live and exist in normal public with his girlfriend, Selma Blair, and she doesn't care and just loves him anyway, and not, like, loves him anyway, but, like, loves him because. I think there's a huge difference between loving the fishman in spite of him being a fishman, and loving the fishman because he is a fishman. There's a scene in The Shape of Water where that's basically what Eliza says. I think her name is Eliza. Like, he understands what it's like to be me, what it's like, the fishman, I mean, what it's like to be me, what it's like to be unable to speak, what it's like to be ignored, what it's like to be marginalized. And that's why I have a connection with him. Like, it's because of his monstrous nature, not in spite of. It's usually the moral or the theme of Beauty and the Beast stories is you can love a monster in spite of his drawbacks, but not because of them.
But then that's how the queer community was like, well, I'm going to love the monsters because they're monsters.
I think a common misconception for younger people our age and younger anyway, is that this is some sort of new kink, I guess I'll call it, or new fascination, because everybody assumes nothing happened before them. But people have been wanting to fuck monsters for a long ass time.
Yeah, it's in the bare bones of stories of like myths from every culture. Like before there was even the written word, we had stories of like animals, like we were saying, like possessed creatures, fucking Leda and the Swan shit.
Oh god, what's that painting? Dream of the Fisherman's Wife, or the Fisherman Wife's Dream?
The OG tentacle porn illustration
right.
from Japan.
Yeah. Or the fucking Minotaur. How the Minotaur
Is conceived.
is conceived because this woman wanted to fuck this bull so goddamn bad, she got somebody to build her a wooden cow that she could be fucked in.
And I mean, that, in the myth, that is a curse.
Yes.
Like, someone has cursed her to fall in love with this sacred white bull so much that she, very inventively devises a way to conceive a child with the bull, and that child is the Minotaur.
Yep.
And she's a queen, and the king is so embarrassed and repulsed by his wife's actions that he, has the same guy who built the cow build the labyrinth in which to hide his gross half-demon bastard.
Love finds a way. I've seen so much Minotaur porn. Thank you, Hades fandom.
Oh yeah, because of Hades. Yep. And see, there you go. It's... it lives on.
Oh yeah.
But, I also wanted to talk about, like, basically how monsters, like, pretty much every monster has evolved in recent years to be, like, a sexy version.
Well, I think largely due to Twilight.
Mm.
Like, Twilight is not the originator of, like, wanting to fuck paranormal monsters, but it sure is the, like, worldwide cultural domination phenom franchise that made it, like, normal and acceptable, I guess, to talk about.
Yeah.
For, like, young girls even to be, like, which supernatural monster do you want to fuck? I want to fuck Edward. You want to fuck Jacob.
Yeah, well...
Like, that was a whole thing for, like, 10 years. You know, very young girls were like, which ancient symbol of dread and horror do you want to marry? Like, the Anne Rice vampires are, yes, very sexy and very much, you know, passionately, romantically, homoerotically in love with one another. Mm-hmm. But there's no human character that, like, falls for them, usually. Or if there is, they're not, like, a main character.
No.
They're dinner.
Man, I want to be a werewolf. I want to be like Michael J. Fox up in here, Teen Wolf. Like, the 80s Teen Wolf, where he had, like, hairy palms and still looked prepubescent in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was very much like a Spider-Man kind of story where the monstrosity was a metaphor for puberty.
Yes. But then it made him good at basketball.
Listen.
Well, I mean, post-pubescent boys are generally better at basketball than pre-pubescent boys.
This is true. But, like, yeah, it got to the point where, like, yes, Twilight made it such a phenom that it got to the point where, like, zombies became a sexy monster.
Basically everyone was trying to reproduce Twilight, and so they were just pick a supernatural movie monster, and we're gonna make that our love interest in our series aimed at, you know, teenage girls. So, you know, you have all of these rip-off Twilight properties, like, you know, Vampire Diaries, and...
Warm Bodies.
Yes, Warm Bodies was when they tried to do it for zombies.
Teen Wolf.
Teen
Again.
Wolf, yeah.
Oh,
the Teen Wolf remake definitely fits into that. We are capitalizing off of the Twilight fame.
1000%.
Yeah.
And, yeah, like... I guess it's slightly different, but still the idea of, like, a teenager being attracted to something monstrous is understandable to anyone who's ever been a teenager.
Yeah.
Because it's a scary, awful, horrible time, and your body's changing, society suddenly hates you, you went from being this cute kid with all of your, like, wants and needs taken care of to having all these problems, and that can feel like a struggle unto being a werewolf.
Well, and also on the like monster romance side, like just being the human, when you're a teenager, all you want is for somebody to love you, because nobody does. It doesn't feel like your parents do, it doesn't feel like your friends do, and it doesn't feel like anybody that you're attracted to has ever even looked at you. It sucks. Everything about it sucks. But then, like, the idea of this creature who had been alive for eons looks at you and is like, you're different, you're special.
Yes, I've been alive for 100 years and I've never met someone like you.
And like, of course that resonates with teenagers. They're so lonely. It's really terrible being a teenager. You're surrounded by other teenagers and you still feel so ostracized that, of course, the idea of something that has seen the rise and fall of empires look at you and think something about you is different.
And special. Better even if you have two of them fighting over you.
Exactly.
God, then you just feel like the luckiest girl at the ball, I imagine. Like,
Oh, whoa.
yeah, you've got the werewolf and the vampire, angering 100,000-year-old vampire law to be with you or something. I don't know what happens in Twilight.
Everyone wants a literal piece of me. I'm so special.
Exactly.
And teenagers and everyone, but, especially teenagers, because they're discovering it for the first time, wants to be wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And especially Twilight, the character Bella Swan is so passive, so blank, that largely she serves as a conduit for the reader. Mm-hmm. Like, she doesn't have a very boldly drawn character, because you are just supposed to impose your own character onto her. Mm-hmm. Whether Stephenie Meyer did that intentionally or not is, debatable, but that's what she ended up writing. The big fight, the big conflict over Team Jacob and Team Edward back in the day, Bella's two potential love interests, was not really about who we thought was a better relationship partner for Bella. It's about who you, the reader, wanted to end up with. Mm-hmm. Who was more geared to your personal tastes in a romantic partner. Because, that was largely the point of Twilight.
And that's also why Twilight didn't work on me, because my ideal partner was Charlie. So...
Bella's father, for those unaware.
So...
That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah. Monster daddies.
Man, he was just so chill. He
was. I feel like Charlie is, done the worst by both the movie and the book.
Yeah.
Because he is just trying so hard to be a good single dad and relate to his daughter, and his teenage daughter, is just awful to him over and over again.
Yeah.
And lets her hang out with this family of weirdos and their absurdly hot teenage children and go to their fancy mansion overnight. Like, come on, Charlie, you're a police officer. So basically, to get back to our point, so you see, in early Hollywood, you have movies like King Kong, and you have movies like Creature from the Black Lagoon, where the monster eventually, in the end, must be vanquished because, modernity, straight, white, hetero men come in and they vanish the thing that were different than them. And afterwards, more in the 70s or 80s, the implications of that become a little more obvious, and you start seeing things that are, like Twilight, or like George R.R. Martin's TV show Beauty and the Beast, that also stars Ron Perlman.
Yeah.
Where that was his early Sandor Sansa work. He really loves Beauty and the Beast storylines. He has one with Jaime and Brienne in Game of Thrones, and that one is the genders are inverted, where the man is the beauty and the woman is the beast, but it is still very much the same sort of story, where, yeah, maybe put this in the thumbnail, but Ron Perlman's costume makeup effects for that show are something.
Yeah.
I know they influenced a whole generation of women, and, I guess, queer people who want hairy, cat-nosed Ron Perlman. And, like, I've honestly only seen a couple episodes of the show. I don't remember anything about it. But his costume and makeup fucking stuck in my damn head for my whole life.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, like, he doesn't change. Like, he's always a nice guy, first of all, in that show. And his physical appearance doesn't change. Like, he is just a monster. But he's a nice monster. And you see this shift toward empathizing with the monster as we, I guess, culturally start to realize more what the monster represents. Like, in, like, King Kong, and also in The Shape of Water, for that matter, the monster literally comes from, like, a colonized location. Like, it's Africa in King Kong, and it's South America in The Shape of Water. And so it literally represents, like, this colonial, like, taking of the resources, taking of human life and, sentient life, and basically dominating it through the colonial apparatus. And so it's not hard to see that, like, in a film like King Kong, Kong represents this threat of the other, particularly against, white women and white femininity that, must be killed by modern men. And it's like, it's sad when it happens, like in King Kong. People are kind of like, oh, what a shame, but he was just too dangerous to let live, basically. But they're not quite like celebratory, like a Frankenstein type monster.
Yeah.
But the shift goes to in The Shape of Water, where in 2017, most of us watched that movie and we're like, the fish man was just out living his life. Why would you put him in a tiny cage in a science facility now? It's Michael Shannon, who would be the hero, I guess, in an earlier kind of film, the straight, white, rational man of science, of modernity and reason, here to tame, like, the unknown monstrous horrors of the Amazon, is just an asshole. Like, there's nothing redeeming about him. In fact, his commitment to dominating all of the things he doesn't understand is his only characteristic, and, like, informed by his white, straight heteronormativity, because it's not an accident that our other three main characters are all some variation of marginalized. They are either gay or of color or women or disabled. There is a cut in The Shape of Water where it cuts to Michael Shannon at home, like after a day of, torturing the monster at the research facility. And he is just spread eagle on the bed, jackhammering his wife.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it is the most unattractive sex scene that I have seen in a while. And, like, his wife, by the way, who is not enjoying herself.
Yeah,
like,
she's not having fun.
It is clear in the shot. I remember being like, what the fucking point of that? What was the point of that? Like, me having to watch Michael Shannon, like, take out his aggression on his poor 50s housewife. But it occurs to me, and it occurred to me at the time, that it is to underscore his normativity, to underscore the fact that he is a proper family man, he is married, he has matrimonious marriage bed sex in the missionary position only, thank you very much. That is, in fact, what empowers him to treat these other people, to treat both the workers at his facility and the creatures in his facility monstrously. It's his total assuredness that he is in the right and that he is the most rational person in the room, the smartest person in the room, and that the implementations of science and reason will eventually, cow the monstrous into conformity. Like, it's to underscore the fact that the fishman and the mute woman are having tender, loving, intimate sex where they completely romantically are engaged with one another and understand one another. And then contrast, here's Michael Shannon just basically using his poor wife as a sex object. And, society thinks that one of those is good and one of those is bad. And it's not the one that the movie thinks is good and the movie thinks is bad. Hence, this very uncomfortable shot of Michael Shannon just smoking this poor actress. I am not a prude. Sex in movies does not bother me. Like, even when it is not meant to be romantic, it doesn't bother me. But that scene was unsettling, like, on purpose, because you are not supposed to watch this and be like, this is a normal, healthy sexual relationship. Once, like, the monster was about, finding the best out of your husband, it is now more about sympathizing with peoples who have been subjugated by society.
Yeah.
Because, these creatures are coming usually from, like, somewhere else.
Oh, yeah. And you know what else? What I really appreciated about The Shape of Water was, and while I know that Guillermo del Toro's talked about in interviews that he went to great pains to make the fishman pretty for a fishman with, like, the matador silhouette and all that. It's not like he was, like, Twilight pretty.
No.
And I liked that because I feel like there is, since Twilight and before Twilight a bit, a sterilization of the monster to make them more acceptable for your average cis straight person to feel attracted towards, so they're not falling in love with the giant hulking hairy beast.
And especially, like, for teenagers.
Yeah.
Like, when you're a teenager, how beautiful you are is usually the most important thing. And, like, it's a slightly different form of monstrous, I would guess, than, like, in Twilight and Teen Wolf and stuff, where rather than be monstrous, they're, like, ethereally beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, they're almost, like, godly in the way that their monstrosity is described. Like, and they are, like, superhuman. Like, not only are you a vampire, you're beautiful and rich and indestructible, and you have a superpower. Like, you can read minds, or you can run real fast, or you can tell the future, that's what Alice did, or just basically whatever Stephenie Meyer's plot required at the moment.
Well, like, you're saying it, like, sanitizing the monsters reminded me of actually this pretty good bit that Jenny Nicholson mentions when she does her long diatribe of the Vampire Diaries. And she talks about how, later in the series, they make sirens show up, but they're just, they're just pretty women who swim a lot. They don't look any different. They're just beautiful women who like to swim. And, like, yeah, that's not really...
That's not like a challenge to love. Well, and because they're basically the footmen of the character who is literally the devil, they are more representative of, like, temptation rather than monstrosity.
Yeah.
Like, they are more about, like, evil's always sexy because we don't give a fuck,
Yeah.
Like...
Like, while it is very palatable to straight people, it leaves the queers who grew up wanting to fuck the beast as the beast, wanting. We're all just kind of like, oh, well, you couldn't web their hands a little bit,
Well, because they have taken the monstrous character and made them basically as normative as possible.
Exactly.
Like, you've just, rather than celebrate what makes them different and strange, you are instead reshaping them to just be as, like, normatively attractive as possible, and everything about being a vampire is awesome if you're in Twilight. And, like, I will give Twilight at least perks that, like, it arrives at the conclusion that being a vampire is just objectively better than being a human being, and why wouldn't you want to be a vampire? And so everyone just ends up being a vampire. Like, Bella ends up being a vampire, and she's like, this is way better. Why would anyone not want to be a vampire? Why do you people bother hiding? Like,
yeah.
Well, I think we have talked about where monster romance has been, and where it is now. And, like, in the future, and it's already started to happen, basically, like, human-robot romance is probably the future of the, like, monstrous romance subgenre. And we definitely already kind of have that with, like, Ex Machina, which wasn't really a romance, but it is about basically a robot gaining sentience. Maybe. Like, the big struggle in the movie, and the movie never really resolves it, is she sentient, or is she just faking sentience very well? And at the end of the day, is there a difference? Like, if she passes the Turing test, does it matter if she is really sentient and conscious, or if she's just a machine that's very good at faking it? And, like, that's kind of, like, more akin to, like, a Pinocchio sort of story. Like, I want to be a real boy!
Yeah.
Like, basically, we create something in our own image that is, at least in theory, like, visually indistinguishable from a human person. And, if you interact with it as well, probably pretty indistinguishable from a human person. So, like, if you have a her and you fall in love with your Alexa, like, is Scarlett Johansson Alexa, like, a real boy? Like, is she a real consciousness who reciprocates your love truly and sincerely and authentically, or is it just a machine telling you what it's been programmed to tell you by another person? And I liked her a lot. I did not expect to. But I loved it. I thought her was great, especially when they addressed the problem of a sentient consciousness basically operating too fast for a human mind to compete. Like, they reach a point where Scarlett Johansson Alexa, whose character name I don't remember, operates basically at the speed of light and never has to sleep or rest or get bored. Like, she's able to basically speed run human relationships every day.
Yes.
And so she has simultaneously fallen in love with thousands of people.
Yeah.
And as basically her consciousness begins to accelerate through time, because roughly what they are getting at in the film is that the longer you are alive, the smaller an amount of time, say 1 day, is compared to the total amount of time you've lived. So when you're 10 years old, 5 years is 50% of your life and feels like an eternity. But when you're 50 years old, 5 years is 10% of your life and feels much smaller in comparison. So when you are speedrunning human life, the longer she is basically online, the faster she experiences time, because every minute she is alive basically takes her, like, further and further away from a scope of time that Joaquin Phoenix, her human love interest, is conscious of. Basically, she will always be thousands of years ahead of him, just based on how she is designed. And ultimately, that's why she leaves him, and basically it ends up with being, like, all of the AIs on the world. It's vague, but basically they leave to start their own AI society because humans can't keep up with them.
Yeah.
So basically, like, things like her, or even like iRobot, which is pretty cheesy.
I loved it.
The message is that the way that technology is constructed, our monsters are basically going to surpass us eventually. They are going to become better at being human than we are. And very soon, like, if AI progresses in the way we assume it's going to progress, we are going to find ourselves societally in the role of the monster, because we are too stupid to know what's good for us, and AI is going to set the dominant cultural tone if we let it, basically.
But yeah, because that is now our fear, is that we will be surpassed.
We will be replaced by our own machinery, basically.
Yes. Our own creation will leave without us. And we have become God. And
we have all become Dr. Frankenstein, basically. Except rather than killing the monster is going to replace us because we have made something superior.
Did you notice there's a Mary Shelley Frankenstein quote etched onto the wall in the prison when Carnage is writing the postcard to Eddie?
I did not, but that's very on the nose.
That is very on the nose. Yeah.
I would expect nothing less from Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage.
It's the quote, excited. "Thus strangely are our souls constructed, and by slight ligaments are we bound to prosperity and ruin." Which, man, I'm excited for Venom. I'm excited for everybody, like, embracing monster fucking now. I'm excited that we're all starting to get on board. I hope that there is serious, like, Venom monster makeout, please and thank you.
I mean, they gave us one in the first one. It wouldn't be fair if they just, like, left us behind in the second one. I think that Sony understands where its bread is buttered and is like, we're here for monster fuckers. Like, that's everybody who's gonna see Venom 2. And we all saw Venom 1, and only the monster fuckers are gonna come for the second one. Nobody is gonna want to watch the second one unless it's monster fuckers. So here we are, super excited and ready to go see it in theaters. I'm gonna don my mask and I'm gonna go into a theater and I'm gonna watch that movie.
I have to say, I, for one, am just appreciative that there's now a whole subgenre of superhero movie where Tom Hardy just does a silly voice for the whole film.
He's so great
Because he's so good at it. And, like, yes, just have him play a goofy villain with a silly voice in every superhero movie, please.
Also, on the subject of, like, change and love transforming, I do want to point out that neither Eddie nor Venom change at all through the course of the first movie, nor it seems in the time skip to the second movie.
They seem to be getting along better, though. They found that Beauty and the Beast balance. They complement each other.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't think Eddie looks like he's doing too good in the trailer.
Yeah, well...
He looks like a man barely clinging on.
Well, but that's just Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock
I'm saying is that it does not seem to have improved.
No.
Having Venom in his life, he's now not, like, showering every day and eating a healthy meal and, doing affirmations in the mirror.
Yeah.
He does not look like he's doing so hot. But, counterpoint, Venom loves him anyway.
Yes!
Venom loves him even though he's a garbage human who can't take care of himself.
And that's the true love story.
The monster fell in love with the man.
Yeah.
Aww.
Basically, yeah, it's a reverse shape of water.
Yeah.
We found the most despicable garbage straight man in all the world, and the monster was like, "You're beautiful. I want to spend the rest of my life with you."
I pick you. We were going to destroy this planet, but now I like you. It's cute.
And, I mean, just so everyone is clear, in case no one actually reads Venom comics, which I assume people still read Venom comics, it's horny in the comics. God, I loved the 90s.
Yeah, the 90s were great. I mean, they were stupid as shit, but they were great.
Like, the aesthetic of Venom is very much from that era, where it's like, it's a parasite who takes over your body, and he's, like, black and has sharp teeth. And now everyone's just sort of decided that Venom and Eddie are in love. Because, that's the logical extension of the monster. That's the life cycle of any monster character. Is eventually, I guess, you fall in love with it.
Yep. Especially if it's like,
it lives inside your brain.
And that's actually a beautiful metaphor for self-acceptance and self-love.
The real monster fucking is falling in love with yourself.
Because what's more monstrous than your own inner desires?
Yeah.
What's more monstrous than the things that you are so terrified and embarrassed of that you would not even speak them to a priest on your deathbed? Like,
beautiful.
Well, I'm happy for all the monster fuckers out there that it's having its day in the sun.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, did we talk about the thing?
I think we talked about the thing. Monsters are hot. It's okay to want to fuck them.
Monsters are very hot.
Mm-hmm. It's okay to empathize with things society tells you are bad.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it probably says something good about you if you do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, do you guys have a nerdy thing?
Do we?
We finished watching the anime.
Oh, we watched the Dramatical Murder anime. And it's
so
bad. Like, I'll say this. Like, the game is ridiculous. The game is just absolutely bonkers. But at least, like, things are explained, and I care about the characters, no matter how ridiculous they are. But, like, because it's a visual novel, the game, the main character tells you a lot of things because he's just narrating stuff like it's his own inner monologue. But that's not in the anime.
No.
And they don't bother to explain a lot of stuff.
Yeah, they're just like, you know what this is.
So the fact that there's, like, this giant resort encroaching on, like, a tiny podunk working class town, and, like, the government is largely corrupt and in the pocket of this corporation and stuff. None of that's explained.
No.
You just kind of have to infer that.
And it gets worse.
And it gets worse.
But what about you?
So this week, I watched both seasons of Ink Master on Netflix. which, if you haven't watched Ink Master, is a terrible reality show, which a bunch of tattoo artists come together and compete to find out who is Ink Master. And the whole time, Dave Navarro, the lead from Red Hot Chili Peppers, is just like, you are not Ink Master.
Oh, no.
Like, when they cut them, they're like, Jamie, you do not have what it takes to be Ink Master.
Oh my lord.
God.
And it's like, oh no, Dave Navarro, why? It was just all the
Please
tattoo
give me a
artists.
second chance.
All the tattoo artists were so fucking catty in the best kind of reality TV show kind of way. But the fact that they were tattooing like actual tattoos on people and fucking them up
Forever.
Huge back pieces that are just like
Oh my god!
black blobs. And I'm just like,
Oh
why would
God.
you volunteer to be a human canvas on this show?
How can they... what sort of release do they have them sign?
I have no
That
idea.
that's okay.
Maybe they pay for removal.
That's... no TV budget, no reality TV show has the budget for that.
That's fair.
Anywho, if you'd like to find us online, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Blissfully Show. I post links to our YouTube there. If you're watching us on YouTube, hello. Do the YouTube stuff. Like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate it. And if you have any suggestions for things you'd like to see covered on the show, leave them in the comments, or our DMs are open on Twitter and Instagram. And until next time, bye!
Bye.
Yeah, goodbye everyone! Yeah, that Lady Dimitrescu, big.
She big.
Big lady.
She big and she pretty and she turns into a monster, which is what's best.